This has been a sort of like quietly fantastic year for horror movies. I would say there wasn't anything that was just like, It Follows or It or The Witch or stuff like that, where people were just kind of like, this is like the movie to see. I mean, until Halloween itself came out in theaters just a few weeks ago. But this has quietly been an awesome year for horror. And if you've been tracking it, good, you know that. But if you haven't and you're like me and you sort of like pop up here and there and go like, what should I be watching right now? And you love horror movies, we're gonna run down a list of, I think we've got what, like 9 or 10 of them right now?
Who's counting?
Yeah, starting with Hereditary. Now, Hereditary is one of the most deeply unsettling movies I've ever seen in my entire life. It is not sort of outright horror as it is just like consistently, unnervingly disturbing. This is a gorgeous movie cinematography-wise. It is completely sort of diverts any expectations.
Yeah.
You're watching the trailer right now, and I can promise you that anything you can infer from it is really not the way things go.
They do a really good job of kind of misdirecting with that. That being said, it's interesting because it's effectively a family drama that happens to be terrifying.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of really screwed up stuff that happens, but if you're like the kind of person who doesn't like, doesn't like horror tropes like jump scares, I hate jump scares. I just think they're sloppy, but I do love things that are deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie, and everyone kind of hyped it up by being like, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. And I saw it, I was like, that definitely has some frightening moments, but mostly it's just like, just haunting, really, I would say.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it's just a really fundamentally good movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it sort of plays on the biggest fear that I think most people have, which is loss. And loss within a family is a specifically terrifying thing. And where this movie goes, I don't even want to remotely hint at, because it goes in very, very weird places. And I actually, I found that to be sort of divisive with some people, but I loved it through and through. So check out Hereditary. It's on streaming sites right now.
We're seeing this kind of this renaissance of sort of art house horror, and this definitely squarely falls in that category. Where and let's not say anything else though. Let's move on.
I watched Apostle a couple weeks ago. This just hit Netflix. This is a Netflix original movie. It is effectively about a man who goes to a foreign land to rescue a kidnapped girl and realizes that this place is sort of inhabited by what would be a peaceful religious cult, which obviously never goes the way you think it is.
So it's a little bit Wicker Man-ish?
Yes. Once you start poking around the corners of this world, you find that there's a little more sort of dark Soulsian horror in that you would expect, and there's great creature effects and great sort of like.
Say no more. I'm sold. Yeah, I haven't seen this. It looks. I love like movie trailers where it sells you on the setup but doesn't reveal any of the spoils and surprises.
Yes. This was directed by the guy that did The Raid 1 and 2. So,
nice.
It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't really expect, because when we watch those movies, they are just sort of in-your-face action movies. They're incredibly fun to watch. And there were moments in this movie where he gets to flex those skills as well and do some hand-to-hand combat stuff and do some very nitty-gritty, fisticuffs. So
cool.
I love this movie. Again, I will not say a lot about it. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, just hit play and watch it.
So one movie that came out recently that a lot of people were talking about is Mandy, which does not sound like a horror movie. I guess then again, you do have like Carrie and Christine. A woman's name is frequently a horror movie. In the case of Mandy, this was one of those movies that could have gone either way. It's Nicolas Cage in the year 2018, which really, that means that it's a movie, maybe. Mandy is, I feel like when people see a movie and they're like, whoa, that was trippy, or like that was like blah, blah, blah on acid. We waste those expressions, and we should really be saving them for movies like this, because this movie is legitimately, genuinely bizarre and psychedelic and very druggy.
It is effectively a fever dream revenge story about sort of somebody disappearing and Nicolas Cage's character getting revenge on yet again another weird religious cult.
It's slow, but it has such a beautiful payoff, and it's just, it goes completely insane.
Yeah, it takes a minute to get where it needs to get, and then once it really gets moving, it doesn't stop until the end. It's gorgeous. It feels like a 70s album cover.
It's directed by Panos Cosmatos, who did Beyond the Black Rainbow, and is actually the son of, I think, George P. Cosmatos, who did the Stallone movie Cobra and a bunch of other very bad 80s films.
Yeah, so you can rent this one right now, too. It's just... Like we said, Nicolas Cage, like, it feels weird to be like, oh, let's champion one of that guy's movies right now, because he's had a weird couple of years of just sort of doing whatever. But this is a special one, so please please pay attention and watch it.
Now, one movie that everyone was talking about was A Quiet Place, which was, I would say that was the closest thing. I think that and Hereditary are kind of the get outs of this year. Like they're the ones that everyone was talking about. A Quiet Place, I don't think this is really, this isn't a spoiler. There's monsters that hunt by hearing things. And so
what is the weakness?
So everyone has to be quiet. So everyone has to be very quiet. This was one of the most interesting movie-going experiences I've ever had. Like you'd sit in the theater, and it's not in theaters anymore, unfortunately, but if there's ever a screening, go see it, because everyone just gets dead silent. And everyone is just on the edge of their seat. The sound design is phenomenal.
Yeah, now that you can rent this at home, I urge you to watch it either with some great surround sound or some headphones on, or just in a dark, quiet room where people aren't talking or looking at their phones or munching on food. Because it will make you like sort of appreciate and fear every bite of popcorn you're eating.
I would say invite over your loudest and most fearful friends, and you'll have a really interesting experience. But yeah, this was cool, and I think they're already fast tracking a sequel. I don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah,
good to know. So Max, you saw Overlord, right?
Yeah, actually, Overlord. Full disclosure, Overlord sponsored our New York Comic-Con coverage, which I was doing back, I don't know, a month ago or something like that. Overlord is produced by J.J. Abrams, and it is. For a second, people were saying it was in the Cloverfield universe. I don't think it actually is. It is the closest thing we have to a Call of Duty Zombies or Wolfenstein movie, and I say that. That is earnestly what it is. It is a bunch of World War II paratroopers jump into Nazi Germany, and they have to they come across some terrifying occult stuff, and it just goes completely bonkers. I was genuinely surprised by this movie. I didn't think it would be bad, but I went in with completely blank slate. I don't think I'd even seen a trailer, and it is badass. Also worth noting, obviously I'm a fan of Metal Gear. Kurt Russell's son is in this movie, Wyatt Russell. If they were making a Metal Gear movie, he fully has my vote to play Snake Plissken. And if they get his dad to play Big Boss, because Snake was based on Snake Plissken,
right?
Totally into that. This movie comes out, I think, November 9th, so it's not even out yet officially. It kicks ass. It's super fun. I think
you saw it way early.
Yeah, I saw it super early. They're doing a lot of early screenings. I think they're trying to build up some buzz, but it's just a really fun kind of gruesome action horror movie. And I hope it does well, because it was a grand old time.
Now, obviously, Halloween just came out. Jamie Lee Curtis's sort of like sequel, reboot, preboot, requel to the original Halloween. It sits in the timeline weird. I actually haven't seen this yet, and neither have you. But we'd be remiss to make this list without adding it. It got an amazing review from IGN and every other outlet, and it's actually I think it was the best movie ever opening for a female lead. And I think the biggest horror movie opening for October ever. So it looks like it's a big deal. It's very gorgeous. It sort of takes a lot of the tropes from the original and brings them in new directions. If you haven't seen the original Halloween, it's sort of hokey, but it's worth rewatching because it will remind you that this is kind of where horror movies of its ilk started.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the first slasher movies. I've actually been watching it. I just finished it this morning. I started it on a plane, and then I lost the 48-hour rental thing, and it was a whole pain in the ass. It's John Carpenter, who did Escape from New York. He's one of my favorite directors. I was never into his horror stuff so much. But it's fascinating to see sort of the guts of every sort of slasher film since then are all in there. And also just the simplicity of Michael Myers, who they kind of lost the thread along the way and they went all over the place and got very strange with it. But it's cool to see, fans of the original kind of revisiting that first movie and being like, let's make a sequel to that first one that got it really right and try to do the best thing they can. So I'm excited to see this. Apparently John Carpenter likes it. He did the score too, which is badass.
Yep.
So yeah.
Way hokier film, and weirdly enough, another Nicolas Cage movie is Mom and Dad. Now, Mom and Dad is one you probably don't know about because it didn't really get a major release, and I don't think it was in theaters for more than a weekend, if at all. Mom and Dad is effectively a zombie movie about kids killing adults. All of the adults in this town effectively become monstrous, murderous people, and the children have to take them down. And this is odd because you don't really expect to see this sort of violence with this type of cast.
They kind of took that first scene from the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead and just stretched it out.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
sounds cool. That's like one of the coolest parts of that movie. Nice. Yeah.
And so yeah, this is basically just I think they describe it as like Home Alone on bath salts.
Ooh.
Most of the second half of the film effectively takes place in just a few small environments. Nicolas Cage is one of the he's a dad in the movie.
He's the titular dad.
Titular dad in Mom and Dad, and he's trying to kill his own children.
Gross.
Amongst others.
Now,
So,
would you say that Nicolas Cage gives like a measured, even, and very grounded performance?
definitely not.
Hell yeah, that's what we want.
I would say he goes full Cage in this one, and he's out of his mind. So also the way this movie's shot is really intense. I really dig it. Another one that you probably didn't track is Revenge. I believe this was a French movie.
Yes, this is incredibly French.
Yeah, and so Max, you actually shut it off after the first few minutes because of the subtitles, but they're only there for a little while.
No. Initially I shut it off for the subtitles. I eventually shut it off because it really upset my wife for some content-related reasons. But it's a revenge story.
Right.
And it's about a woman who's getting revenge on some dudes, bad dudes.
These disgusting businessmen who are just awful people. Bad things happen, and she, attempts to pick them off one by one in the desert. This movie is shot so incredibly well. It does really great things with light and color in ways I haven't really seen a lot of movies do. A lot of the close-up shots are just stunning.
They do a really good job of. There's a lot of stuff in there that's really gross in like in a very not supernatural way.
Yeah.
Like it's not a gruesome way. Like there's a shot there of a guy eating like a candy or something.
Yeah, and it's just
there's a lot of
disgusting
that
to look
where
at.
it makes you hate these people so much
Yep.
without really beating you over the head with it. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes they do, but it's this one was it's gorgeously shot, but yeah.
And finally, Ghost Stories. I believe this came out in the UK, and it might have been a TV movie, but it did get a small theatrical release. It's effectively Martin Freeman and a bunch of other characters, all centralized around 4 independent short stories. So sort of like the Twilight Zone movie or something like that.
Ooh, I love that.
And they're all woven together by this one central character who's effectively a ghost hunter, and he searches the paranormal. And by going on these sort of like cases, he discovers, very weird things. And the 4th case is effectively his own, of him being like, how do I live in this world?
That sounds great.
And so there's really cool things that sort of like the second you're like, oh, this story's going on for too long, it stops and a new one begins.
That's my favorite thing about vignette style movies is that you get it's like one of those like value packs of cereals.
Yep.
I mean, it's like fun-sized candy.
Yeah,
it's exactly.
totally.
It's Halloween candy in movie form. I think I just remembered one that we forgot about here.
Which one?
The Ritual.
Oh God,
There's a
was that
Netflix
this
movie.
year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, The Ritual.
Netflix original movie called The Ritual. Go into that. Just put it on. Watch it. It is so good.
Yeah, it's about a bunch of friends on a camping trip, and things go just very awful. All of these movies are like blah 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 does this, and then things go bad. But this one was really cool, and I kept expecting the other shoe to drop and for it to be corny. But a lot of the special effects and
It holds it together really well.
very specifically the design of some of the things that they are facing become really really interesting. And it goes places. So yeah, those are the X amount of best horror movies you should watch this year. If there's any we missed, let us know in the comments below, and we will watch them.
Yeah. What was your favorite horror movie this year? I took off my eye patch. Anyway, if you enjoyed this fine segment about movies that we enjoyed this year, you should check out a bit we did about movies that came out in 2017 that not enough people saw. One movie that nobody's seen is a Captain Planet live-action movie because it doesn't exist, but if it did exist, it should have the following actors in it. Go watch our dream cast of the Captain Planet movie. I don't even remember who we cast. I think I said Bruno Mars should be Mati. I had fun making that video, and you should watch it because I can't think of anything else to recommend. It's a hymn, a Mario.
Ha ha ha, wahoo.
Get out of there. Get out of there. I don't like it when you're behind me there. Get out of there. Quit it. Quit it. Get out. Go on. All right, he's gone. No, stop.
Wahoo.
Get out of here. Thanks for watching.